Be'ezras Hashem Yisbarech, we will be finishing today the Rambam's Minyan Hamitzvot of his mitzvahs asay. We are continuing at mitzvah Kuf Samech Zayin 167, talking about the holiday of Sukkot. Mitzvah 167, Kuf Samech Zayin, Lishbeis Bashmini Shel Chag Shenamar Uvayem Hashmini Mikra Kodesh. There is a commandment to rest on the 8th day of Sukkot. As it says, on the 8th day there shall be a sacred holiday. Kuf Samech Ches 168. Leishev Basukkah Shivas Yomim Shenamar Besukahis Teshu Shivas Yomim. To dwell in the sukkah for 7 days, as the pasuk says, and you shall dwell in the sukkah for 7 days. 169. Kuf Samech Tes. Lita Lulav Shenamar Lekachtem Lachem Enumeration Pre Eitz Hadar. To take a lulav and all the other of the daled minim, as the pasuk says, and you shall take for yourself on the first day the fruit of a beautiful tree, a palm branch. 170. Kuf Ayin Lishmaya Kol Shefer B'Rosh Hashanah Shenamar Yom Trua Yelachem. To hear the sound of the shefer on Rosh Hashanah, as the pasuk says, it will be a day of shefer blast for you. 171. Kuf Ayin Aleph Litain Machzah Shekel B'Chol Shana Shenamar Zeh Yitnu Kol Ha'Iver. To give a half shekel each year, as the pasuk says, this shall be given by those included in the census. Kuf Ayin Beis. 172. Lishmaya Mikol Navi Sheyeh B'Chol Dar V'Dar Im La Yosef V'Loi Yigra Shenamar Elav Tishma'un. To listen to any prophet who will rise in any era, provided that he does not add or detract from the Torah's commandments, as the pasuk says, you should listen to him. 173. Kuf Ayin Gimel. Lemanis Melech Shenamar Soim Pasim Alecha Melech. To appoint a king, as the pasuk says, you shall surely set upon yourself a king. 174. Kuf Ayin Dalu. L'shmaya Mikol Beistin Hagadol She'amdu Lahem L'Yisrael Shenamar Va'al HaMishpat Asher Yomru L'Cha Ta'aseh. To obey any ruling of the high court that they establish in Israel, as the pasuk says, carry out the judgment which they render for you. 175. Kuf Ayin Hey. Lin Tois Achrei Rabim Im Tia Machlekes Bein HaSanhedrin B'Dinin Shenamar Achrei Rabim Lahatis. To follow the majority opinion if there is a argument in the Sanhedrin, as the pasuk says, follow the majority. 176. Kuf Ayin Vav. Lemannes Shoftim V'Shaitim V'Chol Kol V'Kol Yisrael Shenamar Shoftim V'Shaitim Titin L'Cha. To appoint officers and judges in every Jewish community, as the pasuk says, appoint judges and court officers. 177. Kuf Ayin Zayin. Lahashvos bein balidinim b'shah sha'imdim bedin shenamar b'tzedek tishpeit amitecha. To treat all litigants equally when they appear in court, as the pasuk says, judge your fellow man with righteousness. 178. Kuf Ayin Chas lahayid beveistin lemishi yesh loy eido shenamar v'hu eid oy ra'a ayada. For anybody who has evidence to testify in court, as the pasuk says, if he was a witness, saw or knew. Kuf Ayin Tas. 179. Lachkar ha'edim harbe shenamar v'dorashta v'chakarta v'sha'alta heitev. To cross-examine all witnesses extremely thoroughly, as the pasuk says, you must investigate and probe, making very, very careful inquiry. 180. Kuf Pei lasis la'edim zoymim k'moy shedimu lasis shenamar ma'asisam loy kasher zamam. To punish false witnesses by giving them the penalty that they wish to impose on the defendant, as the pasuk says, and you shall do to him what he plotted to do to his brother. 181. Kuf Pei Aleph la'arif es ha'egla kimitzvasa shenamar va'arfu sham es ha'egla benachal. To decapitate the calf, which was brought as a atonement for a unresolved murder, as required, as the pasuk says, you shall decapitate the calf there in the river. 182. Kuf Pei Beis. Lahachin sheish are miklat shenamar tachin lacha derech v'shilashta as gvul artzecha. To prepare 6 cities of refuge, as the pasuk says, prepare the way and divide into 3 boundaries. 183. Kuf Pei Gimel. Laseis lalvim arim lasheves v'gam heim koltois shenamar v'nasnu lalvim arim. To give the Levium cities in which they dwell. They also serve as the refuge centers that we mentioned before, as the pasuk says, and you shall give cities to the Levium. 184. Kuf Pei Dalet Lasis Ma'ake Shenamar V'Asisa Ma'ake Legagecha. To construct a guardrail on your roof, as the pasuk says, you shall construct a guardrail for your roof. 185. Kuf Pei Hey La'abed Avodah Zara V'Chol Misham Shah Shenamar Abed Ta'abdun Es Kol HaMekomis. To destroy all false gods and all objects of worship, as the pasuk says, you shall surely destroy. 186. Kuf Pei Vav Lahareg Anshe Ir Anidachas V'Lisref Esa'ir Shenamar V'Sarafta Bo'esh. To kill all the inhabitants of a city of idol worshippers, and to burn the city to the ground, as the pasuk says, and you shall burn the city and all its spoils with fire. 187. Kuf Pei Zayin La'abed Shiva Amamim Me'eretz Yisrael Shenamar Hacharim Tacharimim. To destroy the 7 nations that dwell in Eretz Yisrael, as the pasuk says, you shall utterly destroy them. 188. Kuf Pei Ches Lahachris Zarei Shel Amalek Shenamar Timcha Ezecher Amalek. To exterminate all the seed of Amalek, as it says, blot out the memory of Amalek. 189. Kuf Peitas Liskor Masha Asa Amalek Tamid Shenamar Zachar Ace Asher Asa. To constantly remember what Amalek did to us, as the pasuk says, remember what Amalek did to you. 190. Kuf Tzadik Lases Bin Milchemes Harishus Kamishpat Hakos Mater Shenamar Ki Sikrav El Ir. To wage any voluntary war according to the laws that were prescribed in the Torah, as the pasuk says, when you shall approach a city. Kuf Tzadik Aleph 191. Lim Shayach Koyin Lemilchama Shenamar V'Hoya Kikarov Chem El Hamilchama V'Nigash HaKoyin. To anoint a priest who will address the people before any battle, as the pasuk says, and it shall come to pass when you approach the battle, the priest will come forward and speak to the people. Kuf Tzadik Beis 192. Lahaskin Yod B'Machana Shenamar V'Yod Tia L'cha Michutz L'Machana, to prepare a place outside of the camp to be used as a restroom, as the pasuk says, prepare a place for yourselves outside of the camp. Kuf Tzadik Gimel 193. Lahaskin Yosed Shenamar V'Yosed Tia L'cha Al Azenecha, to prepare a shovel to cover one's fluids, as the pasuk says, and you shall have a shovel in addition to your weapons. 194. Kuf Tzadik Dalid Lahashiv Es HaGozel Shenamar V'Heishiv Es HaGzela Asher Gazel, to return any stolen objects, as the pasuk says, and you shall return the object which he stole. 195. Kuf Tzadik Hey Litein Tzedakah Shenamar Soyach Tiftach Es Yodcha La'achicha La'aniyecha, to give charity, as the pasuk says, you shall surely open your hand to your poor brother. 196. Kuf Tzadik Vav La'anik La'eved Ivri Shenamar Ha'anik Ta'anik Lai Chulu V'chein La'ama Ivriya, to give a gift to a Hebrew to any Hebrew servant, as the pasuk says, you shall surely give him gifts. This also applies to a maidservant. 197. Kuf Tzadik Zayin La'al Voice La'ani Shenamar Im Kasef Tilveh Es Ami Es Ha'ani V'chulu Im Zeh In Rishos El Mitzvah Shenamar Ba'aveit Ta'avitanu, to lend money to a poor person, as it says, if you will lend money to my people. And the Rambam says that this word if does not mean that it is one's option, but rather a commandment, as the pasuk says, you shall surely lend to him. 198. Kuf Tzadik Ches La'al Voice L'Nachri B'Ribis Shenamar L'Nachri Sashich Mipi Ashmo Lamdu Shezai Mitzvah Saseh, to lend to a Gentile with interest, as it says, take interest from the Gentile. And based on the oral tradition, we learned that this is a positive commandment. 199. Kuf Tzadik Tes Lahashiv Hamashkin L'Balav Shenamar Hashiv Tashiv Lai Es Ha'abit, to return a security to its owner, as it says, you shall surely return the security to him. 200. Reish Litain Schar Sachir Bizmanoi Shenamar B'Yoimei Titain Schare, to pay a worker on time, as the pasuk says, pay him his wage on the day that it's due. 201. Reish Aleph Liais Hasachir Oicha Bizman Schirusai Shenamar Kisavai Bekerem Reyacha Kisavai Bekamas Reyacha, for any hired worker to be allowed to eat from the projects, while the produce while he's working, as the pasuk says, when you enter your neighbor's vineyard, when you enter your neighbor's standing grain. Reish Beis 202. La'azev me'al chaveroi oy me'al behemtoi shenamar azev ta'azev imoy, to help a colleague when he is unloading or loading the burden of his beast, as the pasuk says, you shall help him. Lahakim hamas ala behema shenamar hakim takim imoy, to help a colleague load onto a burden, onto an animal, as it says, you shall lift it up with him. 204. Reish Dalid Lahashiv Haveda Shenamar Hashiv Tishivim La'achicha, to return a lost object, as it says, you shall surely return it to your brother. 205. Reish Hey La'ichiach HaChoyte Shenamar Hoicheach Toichiach Es Amitacha, to rebuke a person who sins, as it says, you shall surely rebuke your fellow man. 206. Reish Vav Le'ahav Kol Adam Ibnei Bish Shenamar V'Hafta Le'echa Kamecha, to love every member of our people, of the Jewish people, as the pasuk says, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. 207. Reish Zayin Le'ahav Es Hager Shenamar V'Hafta Es Hager, to love the convert, as the pasuk says, and you shall love a convert. 208. V'Tzadik Meznayim Im Hamish Koilos Shenamar Ma'oizne Tzedek Avnei Tzedek, as it says that you shall balance scales when weighing produce correctly, as it says, you shall have correct scales with correct weights. Number 209. Reish Tas L'chabed HaChachamim Shenamar Mitnei Seva Takum, honor all the elders, the sages, as it says, rise before the elder. 210. Reish Yud L'chabed of the Aim Shenamar Kabed Esavicha V'Esimecha, to honor your father and your mother, as the pasuk says, honor your father and your mother. 211. Kuf Yud Aleph Li'ira Me'ava Aim Shenamar Ish Imay V'Aviv Tira'u, to fear your mother and your father, as the pasuk says, a person must fear his mother and his father. 212. Reish Yud Beis Lifrais V'Lirbais Shenamar Pru Urevu, to be fruitful and to multiply, as the pasuk says, be fruitful and multiply. 213. Reish Yud Gimel Live all V'Kedushim Shenamar Ki Yikach Ish Isha Uvala, to have sexual relations only within the confines of a marriage, as the pasuk says, if a man takes a woman as his wife. 214. Reish Yud Daled Lisameach Chasan Es Ishtay Shana Shenamar Naki Iya Levese Shana Echos, for a group to rejoice together with his bride for one whole year, as the pasuk says, he shall be free for his home for 1 year. 215. Reish Tes Vav. Lobel es haben shenemar uvayem hashmini yimol besar arlosai. To circumcise one's son, as the pasuk says on the 8th day, the flesh of his foreskin shall be circumcised. 216. Reish Tazayin liyabeim eshes ach shenemar yavama yavai aleh. To marry the widow of one's brother who's died childless, as the pasuk says, her yavam shall come onto her. 217. Reish Yud Zayin lachloitz liyavam shenemar v'chaltza na'aloi me'al ragloi. If, for whatever reason, they do not want to perform the Yibum ceremony, they remove the Yavam's shoe, also known as Chalitza, as the pasuk says, and he shall remove his shoe from his foot. 218. Reish Yud Ches Lisa Oines Es Anusasoi Shenamar Veloy Sia Liisha. For one who rapes a woman to marry the woman that he raped, as the pasuk says, she shall surely become his wife. Reish Yud Tes 219. Leishev Mighty Shem Ra Im Ishtei Kol Yamav Shenamar Veloy Sia Liisha. For a person who made defamatory remarks about his wife to remain married to her for her entire life, as the pasuk says, she shall become his wife. He may not send her away forever. 220. Reish Chaf Ladun b'mefata b'chamishim shekel im sha'ar dinov shenamar ki yifata ish. For someone who seduces a woman to fine him 50 shekels and carry out all the other laws regarding this matter, the pasuk says, if a person will seduce. 221. Kuf Chaf Aleph Lasois liyifas toyar kakosov shenamar v'lo Bishivya, Eshes, Yifas, Toyar. To carry out the procedure for a woman who is considered a Yifas Toyar, as the pasuk says, and if you see a beautiful woman among the captives, 222. Reish Chav Beis, Legarish, Bishtar Shenamar, Vekasav Law, Sefer Christos, Benasam Biyada. To divorce with a bill of divorce, as it says, and he shall write a bill of divorce for her and place it in her hand. 223. Reish Chav Gimel, Lases, Laseita, B'Seirasa, Shenamar, V'asa La, Hakayin, Ace, Kol, Hatera Hazois. To carry out the procedure for a saita, as the pasuk says, and the priest will carry out all of these laws for her. 224. Reish Chav Daled Lahalkois Harishayim Shenamar V'Hifiloi Hashefet V'Hiko. To whip the wicked person, as the pasuk says, the judge will cast him down and beat him. 225. Reish Chav A Lahagles Reitzeach Bishgaga Shenamar V'Yashav Sham Ad Mois HaKoyin. For one who kills accidentally, to be exiled, as the pasuk says, and he shall dwell there, aka in the cities of refuge, until the high priest dies. Reish Chaf Vav 226. Lios based in Hargin Besayev Shenamar Nakaim Yi Nakaim. For the court to have one of the execution methods be done through decapitation, as the pasuk says, revenge shall surely be taken. 227. Reish Chaf Zayin Lios based in Hargin Bechenek Shenamar Mois Yamos Hanoyev Vahanoy Ofes. For based in to also execute by strangulation, as the pasuk says, the adulterer and the adulteress shall surely die. 228. Reish Chaf Ches Lios based in Sarfin ba'esh shenamar ba'esh yisarfu oisoi ve'es hen. For one of the ways of execution in the basin to be done by burning, as the pasuk says, they shall burn him and them with fire. 229. Reish Chaf Tes Lios based in Soklin ba'avonim shenamar usekaltem oisam. For one of the execution methods to be done through stoning, as the pasuk says, and you shall stone them. 230. Reish Labid Lislois mi shenischayiv tliya shenamar v'talisa oisei ala eitz. To hang those corpses who are liable for hanging, as the pasuk says, and you shall hang them on the gallows. 231. Reish Lamed Aleph Likbar hanaherag b'yoymai shenamar ki cover tik berenu b'yoymahu. To bury the body of an executed person on the day of his execution, as the pasuk says, and you shall surely bury him on that day. Reish Lamed Beis 232. Ladun be'eved ivri kil chasav shenamar ki sikna eved ivri chulu. To carry out the laws concerning a Hebrew servant, as the pasuk says, when you purchase a Hebrew servant. 233. Reish Lamed Gimel Liya'id Ama Ivriya Shenamar Asher Lo Ya'ada Im Livnoi Yi'adena. To marry a Hebrew maidservant, as the pasuk says, who has designated her for himself, and she will be redeemed. 234. Reish Lamed Dalet Liftois Ama Ivriya Shenamar Ve'avda. To redeem a Hebrew maidservant, as it says, and she will be redeemed. 235. Reish Lamed Hey La'avid Be'eved Krani La'ilam Shenamar La'ilam Bahem Ta'avidu. For a Knani servant to serve forever, as the pasuk says, you shall have them serve you forever. 236. Reish Lamed Vav Lies HaChovel Mishalin Mamin Shenamar V'chi Yerivun Anoshim V'hika. For a person who injures a colleague to pay him damages, as the pasuk says, if men will quarrel and one man will strike his colleague, he must pay. 237. Reish Lamed Zayin Ladun Bin Ezike Behema Shenamar Ki Yigaif Shar Ish Es Shar Re'eu. For a person to judge the damages caused by an ox, as the pasuk says, if an ox belonging to one person goes and gores another person's ox. 238. Reish Lamed Ches Ladun Bin Ezike Abar Shenamar Ki Yiftach Ish Bar to judge the damages caused by a pit, as the pasuk says, if a person will open a pit. 239. Reish Lametes Ladun Beganov Bisashlumin Oy Bemisa Shenamar V'chi Yignov Chulu Im B'mach Teres Chulu V'goynev Ish Chulu, to judge a thief, either obligating him to pay for what he stole or execution, as the pasuk says, should a theft be perpetrated, and for death, as it says, if one, when breaking in, and as one states, if one kidnaps a person and sells him. 240 Reish Man Ladun Benezike Hever Shenamar Ki Yaver Ish Sade Oy Kerem, to judge all damages done by grazing, as the pasuk says, if a person will graze his animal in a field or a vineyard. 241 Reish Man Aleph Ladun Benezike Eish Shenamar Ki Seitei Eish Umatza Koitzim V'ne'achal, to judge all damages done through fire, as the pasuk says, if a fire will break out and catch in the thorns. 242 Reish Man Beis Ladun Bedin Shemechinam Shenamar Ki Yitain Ish El Re'eyu Kasavei Kalim, to judge all cases with regard to a free watchman, as the pasuk says, if a person will give a colleague money or utensils. 243 Reish Mem Gimel Ladun Bedin Neisei Sachar B'Seicher Shenamar Ki Yitain Ish El Re'eyu Chamor Oy Shar, to judge all the relevant cases regarding a paid watchman, as the pasuk says, should a person give a donkey or an ox. 244 Reish Man Daled Ladun Bedin Hashoyel Shenamar V'chi Ish Al Ish Me'im Re'eyu, for a person to render judgment in all cases of borrowing, as the pasuk says, if a person will borrow from his colleague. Reish Man Mei Ladun Bedin Mekach U'Memkar Shenamar V'chi Simkiru Mimkar La'amisacha, to judge all judgments having to do with sales, as the pasuk says, if you sell merchandise to your colleague. 246 Reish Man Vav Ladun Bedin Toyin V'Chayfer Shenamar Al Kol Dvar Pesha Al Shar, to render judgment in all cases regarding claims made by one person against another, as the pasuk says, for every matter of trespass concerning an ox, or concerning a donkey, or concerning sheep, etc. 247 Reish Man Zayin Lahatzil Hanirdof Va'afilu B'Nefesh Haredef Shenamar V'Katsoisa Es Kappa, to save the life of someone who is being killed, even if it's necessary to kill the pursuer, as the pasuk says, and you shall cut off her hand. 248, the last of the positive commandments, Ladun B'Dinei Necholes Shenamar Ish Ki Yamus Uvein Ish Loi V'Hais Livnei Yisrael, to render judgment in all cases regarding inheritance, as the pasuk says, if a person dies without having a son, etc. It's Hashem. We will continue tomorrow with the Minyan Hamitzvot, the Rambam's Leisa says, the negative commandments,